And obviously, throughout your career, you and Hogan have always been kind of closely associated and stuff, but in the last few years, obviously not as much. But you did go in the Hall of Fame in 2019. He inducted you. Are you able to look back on that memory fondly of him putting you into or him inducting you into the Hall of Fame?
Somebody had pranked me in 2009. Somebody in the WWE office pranked my house in Boston where I was living with my now ex-wife, and my daughter called and said, "Hey, we're putting Brutus in the Hall of Fame in like a month," and blah, blah, blah. And so next thing you know, the whole family, I'm out on the road somewhere, I come home, everybody's going crazy, they're all excited, I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame, which I really hoped for, been looking forward to, and it was a joke. And it was, on the caller ID there, it said WWE headquarters, blah, 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 and phone numbers, and I kept calling the phone numbers, and this number, that number, and it was just a prank, somebody being a dick. And so it was like, at that point, I just kind of really stopped worrying about it. I was like, you know what, if it happens, it happens. I'm not going to worry about it. And then, it finally did happen. Hogan did the intro for me, went off script, started talking about the Zodiac. The great Hulk Hogan, he couldn't even keep his head straight, couldn't remember what he's supposed to say. And then, because we hadn't even been really talking before this thing happened, when Vince called me and said they're gonna put me in, and then Hogan called me and said, yeah, let's get together and talk about this stuff. And so he's trying to be my friend, and then he does the induction, announces me, and walks right off the stage, grabs his wife, and leaves. Doesn't even wait to hear my induction speech. Just leaves, walks out. So I guess that tells you what kind of friend he really was. He used me to get him back into the WWE. They had shunned him. They took him out of the Hall of Fame. He'd said some horrible slurs, racial slurs. The Rock was pissed at him and wouldn't speak to him. He'd really screwed up. And then he used me to get his foot back in the door and get a thing. And he had promised that he was going to get me and Jimmy a job, money, and we were going to travel, the three of us together, and do lots of promotions for the company and do this stuff and everything. Of course, Jimmy got a deal, but I didn't. I just got left out again in the cold.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you was, when you look back on your career, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, what do you want people to remember about Brutus the Barber Beefcake? Well,
Hunter, Triple H had sent out a thing, and my buddy sent it to me, and it meant a lot to me. Triple H, great, big, huge star for WWE, said that he felt that I was the quintessential wrestler of the 80s that was bigger than life, was so popular, had become so popular that, it was just a phenomenon, that I was a phenomenon and a legend and everything. And it just, when he said those things about me, because we weren't great friends, we weren't, blah, blah, blah. But when he came out and said that on the record, that really, really, really made my heart feel good, that I knew that the right people, I'd reached out, and the right people were noticing, had noticed what's going on, and knew that I'm in the Hall of Fame and I deserve to be in the Hall of Fame big time. And so, that was that.